Tears of the Kingdom's big hook, getting a grand reveal at E3 2021, being the focal point of the boxer and basing the tutorial on it, the sky, man, f this thing. Well, at least in the sense that it really isn't as big of a deal as they made it seem. What's a bigger deal is the verticality of the game, going up crazy high and being able to regain your footing on a sky island to plan your next move, which is great, but the sky islands aren't what's great here. What is the point of these? They're not that prevalent, and when they are, there's oftentimes nothing of note to do on them. That opening section, that's it. That's the sky's magnum opus. I was expecting an aha moment, but what we got was pretty much just random floating platforms in the sky, many of which feel copy and pasted, and even then, there aren't a ton of them, so advertising this as a key part of the game when this is the finalized map of the sky, like, there's so much dead space. So you'd assume what is there is finally crafted to be as purposeful and worthwhile as possible. Well, here's the Sky Island. And here's the point. Oh no! I like that these are here, but they feel like a giant missed opportunity. Like, there should be something more to these, because at the moment, whenever I land on one, oftentimes there's nothing there. The best use for them, honestly, is to get a good look at everything from incredibly high vantage points, which for a game like this is incredibly useful, so I don't want to downplay that. But at that point, they're functionally the same as the towers from the previous game. They're just higher up now, and when it comes to what there is to do on them, I was just expecting more than, oh my god, a frog. The more substantial layer of the world in comparison is easily the depths, which were a big surprise to everyone playing their first time. I mean, these weren't discussed at all pre-release. And that first time you dive in here, it is jaw-dropping. Considering this is the same world as Breath of the Wild, but now has not only a world above it, but a world below, all running on technology that's the equivalent of boiled relish.
Sounds better than I thought.
To go from the highest point possible all the way down to the depths in real time is incredible. There's no getting around that. But when I'm actually down there, this is fucking awesome! I think the depths are an amazing addition, but after that initial shock of being able to go down here and all the materials you can find, there's really not a lot going on. Not enough actual things to do outside of keep moving forward in the dark, and when I find something like a giant boss, I spend so much time trying to take it down, wasting loads of my inventory to end up getting basically nothing worthwhile in return. This area is massive, but everything just looks the same, especially early on when it's pitch black and you're fumbling around in the dark before you realize to use the bright bloom seeds. But even after you illuminate everything, this all feels auto-generated. I like going down here for a change of pace and to collect better materials, but that's kind of it. There's not enough productive activities to do down here for me to feel like I'm doing anything more and just wasting my time. At least this game has actual dungeons now. Or does it? I do think the Divine Beast caught a lot of flack, and much of it was justified. Though, looking back, my main problem stems from how they all look the same visually. The concept of a dungeon being inside a giant robot animal and moving a part of the animal to then change the map layout on the fly is pretty damn cool. It's just, obviously these could have been so much more. An actual dungeon in a traditional Zelda game is so intricate and large with unique visual and audible identity. The Divine Beasts were all pretty much the same thing, just a different layout. For Tears of the Kingdom, I wanted dungeons that were as robust as they were in games like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. These are basically divine beasts again, you just called them temples. These aren't bad whatsoever. I think they're all well designed and can have some really great ideas, but these ain't anywhere near as good as other dungeons throughout the series. I think the main problem is they all follow the same format. Go to these 5 waypoints, turn something on. And while each of these have some really cool gimmicks and puzzles to make them more memorable than the Divine Beasts, now oftentimes the journey to these temples is incredible, but the temples themselves just feel like they're missing something. While they're more distinct from one another than in Breath of the Wild, they're still pretty bland in comparison to other games. Following the exact same template as one another, the boss fights not being anything too compelling, these don't feel as finely crafted as something like a Skyward Sword dungeon. And while these are good, these are more Divine Beast than traditional dungeon in my opinion. The frame rate, it can get a little spunky. Never unplayable whatsoever, but it is something that could be improved upon. Much like the resolution, which, I don't know man, things sometimes look more pixelated than Breath of the Wild, which is fair considering how much more this game does, but it's still a little disappointing. The voice acting is pretty much of a similar quality to the predecessor, which means it's okay, but we just have a lot of awkward deliveries. But I wish there was more of it. For this duology finally introducing voice acting to mainline Zelda, they don't use it a lot. We still have giant walls of text to read here, which is kind of the point of wanting Zelda to move in this direction. They only use it in a handful of cutscenes and just for specific points in the dungeons where your partner says, oh, looks like we only have this many things left to do. And I just feel like it's used a bit too sporadically, especially when this is Nintendo's first $70 release. Yeah, because all this wasn't enough. I want Raru to say the word milk. Finally, something worth $70. Well, those were all my complaints about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Oh my god! So the final boss here is actually pretty good. We have a difficult and tactful sword fight with Ganondorf, requiring good reflexes via flurry rushes and parries. Took a while to get it down, but when I finally did, it was an incredibly satisfying confrontation, leading into the final phase, which was bitch and piss easy, but was a cool and memorable experience nonetheless. But I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the lead up to it. See, when you're ready to take on Ganondorf, you have to find him in the depths of Hyrule Castle, where every enemy lurking down there in the environment itself is soaked in gloom, which is a substance in the depths that will make some of your hearts unusable until you return to an area with natural light, which you ain't getting that on the road to the boss, so you have to be unbelievably careful, avoid enemy encounters if possible, watch where you step. That's all fairly doable, until this section where you have to fight dozens of enemies all covered in gloom. Well, you're surrounded by this stuff, but it's too dark to realize you're standing in it until it's too late. So when I finally get past this section, boom, 3 hearts. I spent dozens of hours trying to get as many hearts as possible to take on Ganondorf, and what did that amount to? You see that? It's nothing. So, surprisingly, that's all fine and good. You know, I appreciate a good challenge, but it became obvious to me this was a journey I had to better prepare for. I discovered there were meals you could cook that restored hearts taken away from gloom. There were some that made you resistant towards gloom. Great stuff. I'll probably have to go through the whole journey again. Fine. I don't wanna, but I guess it's my fault for not preparing, even though I didn't know what to prepare for. But you can't leave this area. You're stuck there. The game expects you to go through with the whole Ganondorf fight, even if you got whittled down to 3 hearts. The only way to leave is by reloading a previous save file, then travel to a different location, make some meals to help yourself, redo this entire section, then alright, I'm back at the boss. Let me get rid of those gloom hearts, let me apply some gloom resistance, and in Ganondorf's 3rd phase, he just flat out removes hearts. It's fine. It's fine. It's not fine, but it's fine. Okay, now those were all my complaints about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I wish Zelda was spelled with a Q.